Hey, everybody, welcome to Mind Your Business, my podcast about interviewing entrepreneurs and business folks that are excelling in the business world. I want to learn from them and I want you guys to learn from them. Really excited to have Saad Allahwala here. He's the lead of Startup Grind in Karachi, head of growth at Didix, and he's recently started an amazing project, which we'll dig into a little bit, called trees.pk. I'm interested in learning more about it as well. Saad, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So, Saad, tell us a little bit about kind of what you're working on, especially this trees.pk project.
Definitely. So I've been running Startup Grind in Karachi since what, 3, 4 years now. So I'm 22. I was 19 when I started that. And it all started after a boot camp at MIT in 2018. So that was about 6 years ago. But I've been with startups or with business all my life because of my family. But now I have stopped working with the IDX and I'm fully working on trees.pk. Ultimately, I'll be stopping working, I'll completely stop working with Startup Grind as well and just be focusing on trees.pk. And trees.pk is initially called trees.pk. It's going to have this is a branch in what I'm actually trying to build. And the whole vision is to complete the target of trees plantation by 2030 for the UN SDGs. Um, and it might sound like a fun job, but 1.2 trillion trees in the next 6 years. Otherwise, it's pretty much climate change is pretty much irreversible. So your kids will not have a good future or a good planet to live in. So we'll probably have to leave for Mars if we don't do that. So this is something that people don't know about, and they're not working on it as much as they should be. So my job now for the next 6 years at least is to facilitate this specific task to get done for our generations. So I mean, it sounds like I'm trying to do something big, and it is big, but it's not for
Hmm.
myself. It's for my kids, I guess.
Very good. So, and you broke up on the number. I think the connection was a little weak, but you said 1.2 billion?
That was 1 trillion,
1.1 trillion trees.
1.2 trillion. So that's
1.2 trillion. That's amazing.
1,200 billion trees next 6 years. Yeah, it
Well,
is
I,
big.
I genuinely hope and wish you the best of luck in that. That sounds amazing. Even if you reach 1% of that, you've done an amazing job.
Well, honestly, you can't really wish me the best. You have to really work hard and then
Yeah.
facilitate me in this as well. So everyone has to be a part of this. Every single person has to be a part of this.
No, well, definitely we'll help you. We'll definitely get on board. I'll use our resources and here at Mind Your Business to get the word out and let people know. So that's really exciting. So digging a little bit deeper into kind of your experience, you've obviously been part of Startup Grind in the business world. Like you said, your family's been in the business world. Tell me a little bit about what you're passionate about, what drives your success.
So I've again, so as I mentioned earlier, I've been brought up in a business family. Um, all our talks, all our dinner talks, table talks have been about business and how we can impact, but not just about business. It's been more about human-centric businesses. So if we're talking about something, we're also taking an account and discussing at least about how many people are we employing or how many people can this project employ? How much impact is this product actually having on people's lives for the better? And then, of course, my grandmother's been in philanthropy. My dad started philanthropy when I was 11. So he's been on that for the past 10 years full time. He left his business. So learning about that, it's always for me personally, it's always been about sustainability and business together.
Mhm.
So if I'm talking about business, I'm not really talking about how we can scale a business extremely rapidly. Yes, we do have to scale something because we live in an era that where it can be scaled very rapidly because of internet and AI. But it also has to have an impact. It also has to have human element in there that we are employing so many people or it's gonna benefit so many people. So my personal experience, even with consulting with a lot of businesses, has been around how do they employ people or how do they uplift people at the same time. So whenever I'm recommending something to someone, it's typically 10% or 20% harder than someone else would be recommending, because if I'm trying to uplift someone, it's going to be a little bit challenging
Hmm.
for the person employing them to actually get stuff done. But in the long term, what we've noticed is that people stick with you longer that way, because you're actually guiding them, you're training them.
You're helping
So
them,
that,
and yeah, you're looking out for their best interests too in their future, which is very
so that
exciting. I think that's extremely noble.
Yeah, so that's been our family's way, I think, from the pretty start. So even our CEO in my dad's company, the ADX, um, that guy came in as a person who knew nothing about technology or telecom, and now he's the CEO. Similarly, every single person in my uncle's company, even, um, everyone started from nothing. So they knew nothing. They came in as an internship, and now they're heading this or that. So it's always been about workplace. Our culture has always been about learning and taking people forward.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, I can proudly say that even in our company, we've employed over 2,000 people so far.
Oh, that's
Um,
amazing. That's a huge number.
uh, Not currently, I mean, like in the span of,
Yeah, yeah, but still, it's very, very
everyone
admirable.
who left has gotten trained a lot. And then when they do go to the next jobs, when they leave us, they're pretty happy with us. They're always happy with us, and they've learned so much for the next
Yeah.
job. So we're more of a training company than
Than an actual
um
company itself.
an actual company itself. So yeah, that we could
Mm.
make a lot of money, but
Yeah.
we really don't. So that's been our situation.
So a big part of this podcast for our listeners specifically is about mindset. Um, Not just business mindset, but mindset in general. Being having the grit and the emotional wherewithal to push forward. Can you talk about what it really takes to build that mindset and what that mindset's all about?
I think so. Yes. So with with mindset, it's about your culture, right? So I've been brought up in a culture where everything was about business. But even today especially, things are so accessible. If you're not in the right circle or the culture where people are hustling for what you actually aspire to be, and if you're not in the culture or surrounding where people have achieved what you want to achieve, where are you going to get the guidance to actually get that done? Um, a lot of times what people and even with this, one negative thing that people do is they might get into a circle or a culture where they do see themselves achieving what they aspire, but they end up getting so overwhelmed that nothing happens. So I think if anyone with a positive mindset in the right circle, and to build the circle, it's very easy. I'll give an example. So I was in Pensacola, a city of
Hmm.
50 million, 50,000 people. And there alone, because I was there for a while, for the project that you do know about, um, I went to like five different networking events. And people coming there, everyone had a business. Even if it was a plumbing business, or it
Hmm.
was a cupcake business, or it was a
Yeah.
roofing business,
Hmm.
it was still a business, and they were still at $2 million year and $2 million per annum revenue plus, right? So they'd still built something. I mean, it was nice to have that circle, and it was a free event. The only reason why there weren't thousands of people there, it was just they weren't really taking out the time to go there, to have the guts to actually start new conversations. And I'm a very shy guy. I cannot start conversations. It's very difficult for me. I mean, I push myself to do it, and sometimes I do it, but it's very difficult for me. I
Yeah.
have to really put myself in that situation. And what I found at networking events and events, especially, because for me, the events have worked. I've been to over 100 events globally, conferences. So because for me events work, I just stand in the corner, smile, and then someone actually comes up, and then meets me and then introduces me to someone else, and if they like my story, they introduce me to even more people, and I ended up making taking like 50 selfies at an event and posting that, and then I'm good friends with them. So that's what's worked for me.
That's really great
Uh,
advice because I have the problem with shyness myself from time to time. It's hard to
right.
enter a really big room and you're
And
intimidated.
Imran, by personally,
Yeah,
me knowing you, I
yeah,
don't think you've been to so many events, and you could
yeah.
go to a lot.
I could go to a lot more. I did go to one yesterday and had some interesting stories to share with you offline. Um, and ended up for 30 minutes talking about, let's just say, not business. So, um, but yeah, those events are very interesting. And for me personally, they can be a little intimidating because it's just a lot of new people, a lot of new faces.
Right. And
And
it is.
but the truth be told, they're also there and they probably maybe feel the same way you do. So that's something to remember. That's good advice. So
And you're right. Everyone does feel uncomfortable at events
yeah.
because 90%, 90% of the people are new.
Hmm.
Maybe 10% of the people you're like, oh, I want to be like them because they've been regular at these events or they're sponsoring the events. I don't think really, that's really important. Even the person sitting in the back. For me, the funniest story has been, I don't think I've shared this with you.
Yeah, talk to me.
So I randomly went to an AI event at the most influential conference in the world. So I was at in Davos in Switzerland for the World Economic Forum event.
Hmm.
And then over there, there's like 50 different pavilions taken up by private companies where like which are like full-fledged shops or restaurants or cafes or coffee shops that have been converted into pavilions of, let's say, Microsoft. There's actually a
Wow.
Microsoft there. There's actually a Google pavilion. Google takes up a whole building. And then there was an AI pavilion, right? And it was next to the UN event pavilion. I went in there and I was sitting at an event randomly, and I ended up sitting in the front seat because I was standing there, standing in the corner. And then when the event started, I just sat there. In front of me, the ESG head of Shell was there for Shell Global, the vice president for Accenture, two AI multi-billionaires. And then on my right, there were two people I didn't really like. I didn't get a good vibe, or like not a good vibe, but like I was
Mm.
like, these guys are nerds and I really want to talk to them. We ended up talking when the event ended and they gave me their business cards. They were vice presidents for SpaceX. And I was like, what the hell, what just happened? And then there was this drunk lady in the back. And we had a good talk and we had a selfie and I just added her on WhatsApp. Late night, she messaged that, oh, there's a party happening and really, really good influential people are coming. You should come. So I ended up going. It was like an hour away from this little village. Um, I had no idea how I'd get back because there's no Uber, no nothing. I mean, I don't know. I might be sleeping in the snow or whatever. Um, and I ended up making friends with such influential and amazing people, multi-billionaires even. And the mayor of Davos that city ended up taking me to the event because I just talked to him and then he took me. Some random people, amazing investors from LA ended up dropping me back to my hotel. Um, and it just happened. So, I mean, and I really didn't really start any conversations. This was just one lady who I ended up talking to at a different event. Um, but coming back to how events have worked for me, I've just been positive about everything. That's what's worked for me. And I think even in unintentionally in the back of your head, if you have something negative, I mean, yes, being scared is fine, but having a good attitude and being positive, people end up talking to you, making good friends with you.
That's an amazing
Um,
story. How do you take those leads and connections? How do you would you say benefit from them? That's
so
something I've always struggled with too.
yeah, so in the moment, I think so. What I do and what my dad does, I've learned from him, um, is that in that moment you have to take a selfie and then you have to send a text message to them at that moment. And you can have a standard text message, but you have to send a text message to them. So they've saved your number, they have your selfie, so they're never really gonna forget you. And even if they do, you end up sending them a text message after a year. So I've been texting those people these days. I have the business cards right here. I don't
Hmm.
remember anyone. I just randomly, because I had that the name contact saved from that event, I just messaged people and then I remembered them and then they ended up remembering me. We kind of reconnected and then I'm doing podcasts with them these days. Um, and again, so they're really high net worth people. They're very good, but good people, right? They
Yeah,
come with money, so they have a good attitude and a good vision about the world as well. Um, so I now with this project, I am gonna cash into those connections.
that's
Before
fantastic.
I didn't really have a reason, so I was just friends with them. I'd just say
Right.
hello, hi.
Maybe they'll sponsor a million trees with their connections and
So
each.
my target for this is that I just need 100 players in the next 4 years, and every single player has to have an impact of at least 10 million trees, 10 billion trees. Um, in the next again, so they have to plant or they have to have a biogas digester that absorbs enough credit enough carbon equal to 10 billion trees. Anything that you do that's equal to 10 billion trees, that's our target. So
Nice.
let's say I'm going to Google, I'm going to Facebook, I'm going to
Hmm.
Mercedes, I'm going to, let's say, even Lithuania, a country, and I'm telling them that okay, this is the impact that we need to make. This is what has to be done. Otherwise, there's no earth left for you to live in. And actually executing it with them. So it's
That's a fantastic
facilitating.
goal. That's a fantastic goal. Um, so you're pretty young yourself, but is there any advice you have to maybe the generation coming up or your generation about how to excel in the business world?
Yeah.
Anything
So
that you may have
this
learned from anything that could be a benefit to them.
I've had a few conversations this year. So I wasn't, because I didn't go to school for a long time. I left. I didn't have a lot of friends or people my age who I was meeting new people.
Hmm.
This year I went on a few events and because I was working with the IDX for a long time. I went on fun events. So I went to vacation with trips, and a lot of people I met, good people, and young people as well. And the conversations I had with them, everyone these days has aspirations to do a lot. Um, but the only thing they know is that they want to do a lot. They don't know what they want to do.
Hmm.
There's two reasons. Either they don't have the exposure or they have too much exposure.
Right.
I think they don't have exposure because having exposure doesn't mean that, oh, I want to start a car company. Having exposure would mean, oh, I want to see if I can start a car company, and this is how it started. But they never really ask a question of how it's going to be done. They just want to know what I want, what should be done. And then they end up just doing internships and going into a company. So having a business mindset isn't that, oh, I want to start a business. It's about, can I really ask questions when I get problems? Because everyone wants to start a business. But
Hmm.
when they actually get the problems, who are they going to ask questions and what are they going to ask? People don't know that. And that's really
So
what
is it
entrepreneurs.
about having a vision then, and making sure that they have a plan to execute that vision?
I mean, yes, I think so. But vision, I again, so I really think everyone has a vision these days because of the exposure, the fast content that we've been watching, because we know what we want. I think it's about really not giving up, right? So asking questions when you don't know something to the
Hmm.
for the right person and then actually executing on it. That's, I think people are just lazy these days and they just need to be persistent. Even with jobs, people are lazy. They're not really, yeah. So they're
True.
not, if even you can be an entrepreneur at a job, right? You're not, if you, but you have to be constantly evolving and constantly asking questions
Yeah.
or teaching or learning. Sorry, my talks, the things I'm saying might be a little vague, but there's just so much to put you
Hmm.
past. But again, I think it just needs to be persistent. The person just needs to be persistent, even if they're even the e-commerce industry seems so saturated these days. But if you do a good job, you make a lot of money even now. So,
Yeah, I mean, somebody told me once, I mean, it literally doesn't matter what you sell on planet Earth. It's just you have to be persistent about it, you know? Like,
yeah,
he gave me the story, like, his friend calls him and says, "Hey, I haven't sold anything. I wish there was a product that I could sell that people would just be calling me and left and right and buying from me." He said, "Well, how many emails have you sent this week?" I emailed 3 people. How many phone calls have you made? Two. How many people on LinkedIn have you reached out to? Three. I was like, obviously, you're not gonna have results if you don't go out and talk to people, like you said, connect and relate with them and understand what they're doing and then have a mutual benefit, right? You should
right,
always try to work out a win-win. Even if you're selling something, I say you should be solving a problem, a legitimate problem, right? In my case, we sell SEO services, so there's a lot of people who have great businesses, but nobody knows about them. So we work diligently to get them their websites ranked, do brand through social media, and extensive email marketing to connect with their existing customers so that people know about them. There's value there, right? To help them
right.
grow. And all that stuff's being done behind the scenes while they're running their business. So we handle that part so they can actually focus on strategy and running their business. So
That's really accurate.
any closing thoughts, Saad, before we kind of wrap up?
Um,
Any advice, anything, maybe, what's the best advice you've ever gotten? Or if
that
there's
I don't remember.
yeah,
I can bring up something right now, and that I have thinking.
yeah,
Uh,
sure.
Again, it's just about the last thing that we said. We were talking about being persistent, about anything, and we'll end up solving a problem. I think problems are there because there's so many people around the world. But if we're reaching the right market, and that we have to be persistent about, even if someone's making this power bank, which is like the cheapest power bank on earth,
Hmm.
it doesn't really work. There's still a market for this. You just have to be persistent to sell it, right?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. The fact that people are still making money out of oil,
Yes.
that seems like the stupidest thing to me. I mean, I don't want to sound like an environmentalist or something like that. I'm not Greta Thunberg, but I don't get that how persistent we can be with our habits, with what we've been brought up with, but we can be persistent about something that's actually beneficial to us.
Yeah.
Why can't we change our habits for the better? I think we should, that should be my advice, that we have to change our habits for the better, even if it's with eating, even if it's with running or driving a electric car or a gas car, or how we're drinking. I mean, I don't know if we're drinking Coke or not. Just think about what you're doing. Okay, so one good advice, now I remember. I met Tony Buzan with my dad a few times. Do you know about Tony Buzan?
No, no. Tell me about it.
So have you heard about mind mapping?
Sounds familiar, but I can't tell me
So
what it
mind
entails.
mapping is a way to plan things.
Okay.
It's a very, very famous way. So it's like making a chart which has branches in it and everything. The guy who invented mind mapping, he was a multimillionaire. He never got married, and he was a British guy. He recently died. When I was in London with my dad, we went to his house, and the way he talked wasn't how fast I'm talking. The way he talked was like, "Hi, Saad. Hope you're having a good day. I'm Tony." So this is how he talked. He'd take pauses and then he'd talk. And then I asked him, I was like 11. I asked him, "Why are you talking like this, Tony? You can talk fast." And he said, "Every single word that I say, I process it in my head first. I analyze it, if it's for the better, if it's good, if it's polite, and then I actually speak." And that was such a beautiful thing to me, that it's not only with words, right? So it's with everything. Everything when we're
Mm.
doing or thinking, we should analyze it first. If we're angry, we should analyze what we're about to say. Is it going to harm us or do us better, do us worse?
Yeah.
And even so, if I put it in a religious perspective, even our prophet said that if you're angry, just stay quiet. Why? Because when you stay quiet, you're actually thinking about what you might do. Actually, you're analyzing all the situations once you're cooled down,
Hmm.
and then you execute. So in the bigger picture, everything is good.
Yeah.
E-
It's
Even if
words,
it
the
doesn't.
words to live by, regardless of what kind of relationship you have with siblings, with parents, with spouses, and with colleagues. That's great advice. Well, Saad, we just wanted to thank you. Obviously thank our sponsors here, Enhanced Solutions. Um, thank the audience. If you guys liked what you saw today, please definitely subscribe, share the video, and tell other folks about it. Be sure to tune in next time. Hopefully, we'll have another great guest with us, like similar to Saad. Really loved your stories today, Saad, as well. Those are really extremely helpful, and I think everybody listening can definitely benefit. So, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Imran, for hosting. I'm really happy that you're doing this podcast finally.
Yes, my son.
And
Talked about it for many, many, many years.
too many times. But
Too
yeah,
many times.
I'm happy that you're doing it, and
Thank you.
definitely hoping that everyone the best and you
Yeah.
too.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.